What's good, peeps? What's good, everyone? Hope all is well. All right, before we talk Ian John Lewis and that statement released, was it yesterday by the British Boxing Board of Control? I'm sure you guys have all read it by now. A couple of quick things. Firstly, Sunday Session Live is back this Sunday. We've not done one for about a month. It's been a long time, so there should be loads to talk about. We'll start around 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. I don't want to do any later than that, but I will leave the exact start time in the community tab, so make sure you just keep an eye out for that. I want to talk about this because I thought it was interesting and be good to get your point of view on it. Eddie Hearn, this is what he had to say. Fury knows how much bigger he'd be if I was promoting him. I'm not quite sure about that. Don't get me wrong, look, I can understand why Eddie says that. Obviously, Eddie thinks he's the biggest promoter in the world. He might well just be that. But I think Fury is massive. Look, he sold out Wembley Stadium. And I know a lot of you will say, oh yeah, a lot of secondary tickets. But I mean, secondary tickets happen when AJ sells at Wembley. So we've got to keep the same energy for Fury. They're looking to do 100,000 in there. 100,000, which is just incredible. And look, I'm not taking away Dillian White's part in this, but this is really all Tyson Fury. So I'm not quite sure how bigger he could be. He done the dream everyone wants to do, which is go to America and conquer that. He was in the bloody WWE. So I'm not sure. I guess the thing Eddie could help him with is maybe his commercial interest. Like, that's one thing that Fury doesn't really do, but maybe that's just Fury's not interested in doing that. I don't know. Maybe sponsors don't look at Fury like that. I'm not quite sure. But in terms of making him bigger than he already is, Fury, no one is going to promote Tyson Fury better than Tyson Fury. No one. I mean, he's such a good speaker. It's almost like the Conor McGregor thing. I mean, Dana White, I think, is the best promoter in sort of combat sports. I mean, he wasn't the reason that Conor McGregor became Conor McGregor. That was because of Conor McGregor. And I almost feel like the same thing applies to Tyson Fury. I really do. So, yeah, I don't believe that at all. Another thing, very quickly, before we talk Ian John Lewis, is Conor Benn I want to talk about. Now, I done a video the other day talking about Conor Benn's opponent, Van Heerden, that got announced, a couple of days ago. And the reaction to that announcement is bad. I can't lie to you, it's very, very bad. So I want to quickly talk about it again. Look, firstly, I've seen a few people kind of dig out Conor Benn. Conor Benn doesn't decide who Conor Benn fights. He's not at the Canelo stage where they can just pick opponents like that. It will be a whole team that decides that he's manager. It'll probably be the broadcaster. It'll probably be Eddie Hearn as well. Conor Benn, and look, I sat down with Conor Benn on this channel, a couple of months ago. Conor Benn was saying names like Broner, Danny Garcia, because Danny's not yet gone to 154 pounds. Morris Hooker, that was the main name. We'll talk about that in a second. Keith Thurman, those were all the names. Now, Morris Hooker was the right choice. Perfect opponent, unfortunately injured. So they're now gone out there and looked for another opponent. I guess the problem that we have with Van Heerden is that people will say he's not really that far above, or is he even above the likes of Granados and Algieri and Vargas? Probably not. So that's what I think people are angry at. People want to see Conor go that way, and he's maybe in his last 4 fights he's done that. Maybe that's the issue, I think, with Van Heerden. Van Heerden's actually a decent opponent, but again, because his resume and record and inactivity is actually quite similar to the Granadoses of the world and the Algieris, it looks like we haven't yet got a better opponent. We're almost just playing it safe for now. Conor Benn wants anyone. He will fight anyone. And look, he's honest to say he's not ready for the Terence Crawfords of the world. Obviously, he's in the Errol Spencers. But apart from that, and I'm talking Jaron Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, whether he wins or lose, and he said that again. He did say, look, if he loses, he loses, but he wants the big name. So trust me, as much as we as fans are frustrated with the Van Heerden fight, Conor's more frustrated. He's going to go in there and do the job. And I don't think they're going to be able to match him up with another Van Heerden next time out. So whether Conor fights, if he comes through it in August or September, it's going to have to be someone a lot better. They obviously wanted the Kell Brook. He really wanted the Kell Brook. I spoke to Conor Benn. This is where you know this has all happened very quickly. Hopefully I can mention this now. But I spoke to Conor Benn on the Lawrence Okoli fight card. It was actually outside eating. It was in a place called Basaba, and he was in the restaurant. I was, oh shit, Conor, what's good? And he spoke to me and said, look, yeah, we're going to do the Kell Brook next. So that fight was that close then. For him to say that to me, it was that close. And then obviously something's happened and they've now gone to Van Heerden. So it's not because Conor doesn't want to fight these guys. Conor clearly wants to fight them. It's his team just playing it cautious. It's his team maybe not being able to secure the big ones. And maybe, more importantly, above all of that, it's the Morris Hooker fight falling through. I think that would have been the perfect opponent. You wouldn't have got many complaints. And then it would have been big, big, big from there. But look, let him get past Van Heerden, as I think he will, as I think most of us do think he will, and then we'll see what they do next. Maybe they try and then revisit the Kell Brook fight. Maybe even there might have been something agreed for the Kell Brook fight to happen in the summer. Maybe. There's always something going on behind the scenes. All right, let's talk about this British Boxing Board of Control situation with Mr. Ian John Lewis. By the way, I don't think, and I was trying to rack my brains about this before doing the video, I can't think of a result that has had this much of an impact ever in British boxing. I mean, there's been some where, you know, we've all gone online and gone a bit crazy. Like, I think when Lewis Ritson got the result over Vasquez, I think it is, that fights this weekend against Cully. I think everyone was like, oh my God, this is an outrage, this is a disgrace. But nothing like this. I mean, Jack Catterall's MP went to the police and reported this as a criminal case, like a criminal case. So look, the British Boxing Board of Control had to do something. And again, to my recollection, I can't remember the last time I've actually done anything like this either. So look, anyway, I'm not going to read this statement in full. You guys have all read it, but I'm going to quickly go over some of the most important points here. Having considered Mr. Ian John Lewis's explanation, so Ian John Lewis went in, the stewards of the board decided to downgrade Mr. John Lewis from an A-star class to an A-class official. Basically, that just means what level of fights he can have. And based on that, he will lose some money as well, because obviously if it's a sort of area level, British level fight, there's going to be less money for them to make than there is obviously if it's world level fight. So he goes down a level, he loses a bit of money. Now, obviously, if you're Jack Catterall, this means fuck all to you, because, you know, you've still lost your opportunity. I don't know what Jack Catterall wanted to be the outcome of this. I don't know if it's a case of you suspend Mr. Ian John Lewis. That would have been my preference. But I guess for Jack Catterall, it would have been a case of maybe you make this a no contest, which is very, very rare. Only really happens when there's a drug infringement, or you sort of ask the governing bodies to have an immediate rematch. That would have been the only thing that I think would have appeased Jack Catterall. In fact, the immediate rematch would have been the only thing. I don't even think the no contest would have done anything. So, look, it's not good enough, but it shows that if we, as people, really make our voices heard, they have to listen to us. And the British Boxing Board of Control have been under so much pressure since this fight result. They had to do something. It does, for me, seem to be a bit like an old boys group, old men's group, where, you know, Ian John Lewis has gone in and they've said, oh, look, Ian, we have to do something. We're under much pressure. Look, just go down for a month or so. They'll all forget about it and then we'll put you back up. That's what it looks like here, because I haven't seen on this statement, I'll quickly fly through it again, it doesn't say anything about how long this suspension or demotion or downgrade will be for. It could literally be for a couple of weeks. It really could. But I think it had to happen because Mr. Ian John Lewis has too many of these. He's got receipts. It's not just him, there's others. But what this might do for the judges and refs going forward is that now it's a case of, no, we'll look into you if you fuck up. Like, we will make our voices heard to the British Boxing Board of Control, to whoever we need to, and they'll have to look into it and do something about it, because for too long, it's been an old boys club where nothing can happen. Nothing. Like, I've seen some horrendous things happen in the British boxing ring and nothing. No one gets a slap on the wrist. Nothing. So look, as much as this isn't enough for Mr. Ian John Lewis, as much as I wanted more to happen, at least something's happening right now. And there was far too much pressure on it not happening. What they have said as well is, I think I saw something. As such, the stewards of the board have further decided that in addition to each A-star class official being evaluated after each bout, which is quite good, as per current procedure, they will now be subject to a separate individual annual review. You know what I would like to know, by the way, who the stewards of the board are. I almost don't even want it to be part of the British Boxing Board of Control. I almost want it to be a separate body that reviews these, honestly, because I feel like, again, and I'll repeat myself here, it's an old boys club, isn't it? So I wouldn't be shocked if the stewards are not friendly with Mr. Ian John Lewis and any other referee. I'd like it to be separated from them. Separate board has a look at controversial and dodgy decisions, and they then make their own findings known. Because again, British Boxing Board of Control have just demoted him. He'll lose a couple of quid. He'll lose a couple of big fights, but he'll be back. He'll be back doing world title fights, ref or judging in the next month or so. He will be. And I hope that when he does come back, we're on his case again. because Mr. Ian John Lewis can't ruin people's careers like this. Jack Catterall gets nothing out of this. Yes, some people have applauded the fact they've done this, but what does he get out of this? Absolutely sweet fuck all. Anyway, guys and girls, peace and love.